All right, so going in a different direction here. Next EP we're going to be talking about is Job for a Cowboy.
What's the job?
Doom.
Doom is the
The
job.
Doom. The Doom is the job.
Okay.
So this was actually their debut. The first thing they released was this
Mhm.
EP. It's 7 songs, 27 minutes, released in December of 2005.
It's almost 20 years old.
Remember when MySpace Deathcore was a thing?
Mhm.
Well, as odd as it may seem when you listen to Job for a Cowboy's current albums, they were pioneers of MySpace Deathcore, and this is largely considered to be one of the most important pieces of music recorded during that era. So let's see if it lives up to the hype.
Hmm.
It opens up with Catharsis for the Buried, which is just an ambient intro,
Yep.
or a calm before the storm, however you want to look at it. And that leads us into Entombment of a Machine. So much of what deathcore is now can be heard in full display here. The gutturals, the pig squeals, the big breakdowns, the big nasty guitar chugging. Also notable that even in their deathcore era, this band still had the cool jazz bass that was very prevalent and up front in the mix.
Mhm.
What'd you think of this opening track?
Well, first of all, the intro sounds like something from a horror movie with someone getting hacked up and screaming. It was fucking brutal. But the opening track, Entombment of the Machine, they don't fuck around at all. It's 1,000 miles an hour right out of the gate, demon riffing, blast beats, menacing vocals. I'm going to trademark that demon riffing. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Track changes directions numerous times. I loved it, man. It was a great intro.
Awesome.
Opening track.
So the next track is Relinquished. This shit's brutal. And much like modern deathcore, this has elements of black metal, hardcore, and death metal. Composition wise, it's all over the place though. There's so many tempo changes and switch ups, which make it very interesting, but also a little bit hard to kind of groove with it. Super cool dropout just past the 2 minute mark before we get a little breakdown. Even on this EP, you could hear that they were musically a cut above, your despised icons and suicide silences. There was a lot more technicality in their music than what was going on in those other bands.
Definitely a lot more technical. And they continue with the aggressiveness here. It's straight out of hell. Heavy on the pig squeals. That dropout with the knocking caught me a little bit off guard. I honestly don't think I've listened to this album much since 2005 when it first came out. But it was definitely fun to go back here. So
Yeah, definitely. And I've since become a much bigger fan of their newer music, but it was really cool to go back and hear this. Knee Deep is the next song. I think it's the best song on the album,
is
hands
this the
down.
Devil Driver song cover?
It's it's definitely
It's
not.
the same era. It's kind of funny.
So technical riffing with caveman brutality. Now that's a cool combination.
Yeah.
Probably one of the coolest breakdowns that I've ever heard, honestly.
Yeah.
The way that it builds up slowly and it just fucking explodes, it's just incredible.
Yeah, that breakdown section with the chuggy guitar and the beat down drums is a standout moment on the entire album. The song's full throttle aggression, though, relentless brutality. Another good one.
So the Rising Tide is next. Easy for me to say this now because I know the evolution of this band, but man, they would have been so much better off leaning into the technical death metal elements on this particular song versus throwing in the weird, choppy core parts. I definitely dig the song, but it had the potential to be a better death metal song than a deathcore song, if that makes sense.
Maybe.
Some of the core elements to me were just kind of abrasive and just kind of took me out of the vibe.
For me, though, that very brief dropout with the bass was a nice break on the ears before they just came back in on full on annihilation mode. I like when they slow it down. You can really hear all the little shit that they're doing. So
Would you say that they had you suspended by the throat?
that's the next song.
So this is like new American gospel era Lamb of God on steroids. And by that, I mean there's a little bit of groove thrown in here, especially on the slower parts. Super cool vocal tricks midway through as well, with the demon pitched highs and the squeals. Good stuff.
Yeah, they're right back into the blistering pace, punishing riffing, and the thunderous drums on the fade out. It's another good track.
So Entities is the next song and the last song. I do not like the drum sound, specifically the snare on this song. It's very abrasive and really distracts from an otherwise good song. The solo on here definitely foreshadows what this band will eventually become, though. Absolutely incredible.
Jesus Christ is nowhere to be found on this album. This is demon shit. Really intricate solo with a constant double bass march behind it was just brutal. Thought it was a good closer. The album's full of technical, lightning fast riffing, pummeling drums, and blast beats. Intense vocals that sound like the devil's sidekick with a large side of pig squeal. There's an unrelenting aggression throughout the album that keeps you locked in. This is the soundtrack to hell, and my ears needed a palate cleanse after this. But Doom is good and gets a 4.5 out of 6 from me.
Yeah, if you haven't heard this EP and you're a fan of deathcore, you need to listen to the forefathers of your favorite modern deathcore band. That said, this is a trick that they only did once. On their debut album, Genesis, the band transitioned into a technical death metal band and never looked back. So, how does their one deathcore album hold up? I'd say pretty fucking well.
Yeah.
This was a really fun listen. And if you ever just want to get some aggression out, I highly recommend it. Job for a Cowboy's Doom is a 4.5 out of 6 from me as well.
Nice.